Imagine the story of life on this planet is like a giant ancient book. For the longest time, we thought we had the main chapters pretty much figured out. But what if we're suddenly discovering new pages? Pages that completely change what we thought we knew about the beginning, about our beginning. It's a huge question, and frankly, it's sending some serious shockwaves through the scientific world right now. We're going to dive into a bunch of new discoveries that are forcing us to rethink the entire narrative of evolution, from our own messy family tree all the way back to ancient worlds that existed long before us. So our journey starts in the sun-baked landscapes of Kenya, near a place called Lake Turkana. A fossil found here isn't just adding a little detail to our story. No, it's threatening to rip out a critical page and rewrite the whole chapter on what it means to be human. You see, for a long, long time, the picture we had was pretty simple. It was clean, it was orderly, almost like a parade. We thought we had this direct line of ancestors, each one passing the torch to the next, getting a little bit closer to us with every single step. And this is basically what we all learned in school, right? The story went something like this. We started with early relatives like Australopithecus. They supposedly evolved into Homo habilis, the handyman, who then turned into the much taller Homo erectus, and from there it was a straight shot to us, Homo sapiens. Simple, linear, and as it turns out, probably wrong. So, let's get to the heart of this new discovery and see exactly how that simple, straight line just falls apart. The truth is, our origin story isn't a line at all. It's more like a messy, tangled bush, full of dead ends and surprising offshoots and mysteries we're only just now starting to appreciate. This right here, this is the game changer. For the very first time, scientists have found a relatively complete body of Homo habilis. We're not just talking about a few teeth or a piece of a jaw anymore. And what the skeleton is telling us is, well, it's not at all what anyone expected. Okay, so here's where it gets really weird. You've got this contradiction. The skull and teeth, they look advanced. Definitely part of our own group, the Homo genus. But the body? Whoa, it was incredibly primitive. This individual was only about 5'3" with these long ape-like arms, kind of like the famous Lucy skeleton from way earlier. So its head was evolving in one direction, while its body was still very much stuck in the past. So what does all this mean? It leads to this massive realization. Homo habilis didn't just neatly evolve into Homo erectus. The fossil record now shows they were living at the same time, for hundreds of thousands of years. With bodies that were so different, they probably had totally different lifestyles, maybe avoiding competing with each other. They weren't parent and child on a timeline. They were more like evolutionary cousins, living side by side. And listen, this quote from one of the scientists who wrote the study really says it all. The jump from the primitive body of habilis to the modern one of erectus is just, it's too big, it happened too fast. It's a huge clue that we need to be looking somewhere else, probably further back in time, for the real direct ancestor of Homo erectus, and ultimately of us. And the plot just keeps getting thicker. If habilis isn't our direct ancestor, then who is? Well, other fossils, like these incredible finds in Morocco, just add more fuel to the fire. They confirm that our origins are rooted deep in Africa and are way more complex than a simple line. These fossils also show that same mix of primitive and modern features, which tells us our family tree isn't a single trunk. It's a messy, sprawling, continent-wide bush. You know, this whole process of rewriting history, it's not just about our own species, not by a long shot. Across the entire field of paleontology, new discoveries are just shattering old ideas about the deep past and the unbelievable creatures that used to live here. I mean, even the story of the dinosaurs is getting some major revisions. We're finding creatures in places we never expected, like the horned ceratopsians. We always thought they were only in North America and Asia, but nope, they've been confirmed in Europe. And we're still finding brand new species, like a gigantic titanosaur down in Argentina. Every single find just redraws the map of that ancient world and shows us that these ecosystems were so much more diverse than we ever imagined. And this theme of discovery, it doesn't stop with fossils. It stretches from the ancient dead all the way to the living. The story of survival is literally etched into the DNA of life today, and it reveals adaptations that are every bit as stunning as anything we dig out of the ground. 400 years. Just let that sink in for a second. That is the estimated lifespan of one single Greenland shark. That makes it the longest living vertebrate on the entire planet. How does an animal even do that? How does it survive for 4 centuries in the cold, crushing darkness of the deep ocean? Well, the secret, it turns out, is in its genes.
For a long time, scientists just assumed these ancient sharks went blind as they got older. But now we know they have these incredibly tough genes that are constantly repairing DNA damage in their eyes, which lets them keep their vision sharp for centuries. It's just an amazing piece of biological engineering.
And if you want to see adaptation happening in real time, just look at our oceans. In what is honestly one of the most shocking discoveries I've heard of recently, scientists have found an entirely new kind of ecosystem, one that was born from our own pollution. So here's how this works. Little coastal critters hitch a ride on floating pieces of plastic way out into the deep ocean. Now, a piece of wood would rot and sink, but plastic, it can last for decades. It basically becomes a permanent artificial reef. And on these little plastic islands, these coastal species aren't just surviving, they're thriving. They're reproducing and building a brand new, permanent community where one could never have existed before. Life, as they say, finds a way. This relentless human drive to understand our own planet, its past, its present, it just inevitably pushes us to look outward, doesn't it? We start searching for the same kinds of patterns of origin and adaptation, not just here on Earth, but on the grandest possible scale, out in the cosmos. And that universal quest, well, it has its amazing wins and its frustrating setbacks. I mean, we can detect the faint ripple of a companion star circling the supergiant Betelgeuse, which is hundreds of light years away. And yet, right next door on Mars, the one mission that could return samples, our best shot at finding out if life ever existed there, is currently on hold, unfunded. It's just a reminder that the road to discovery is never, ever a straight line. So, from a single hominin skeleton in Kenya to a new ecosystem built on plastic in the Pacific, all the way to the light of a dying star, we're constantly being reminded that what we know is just a fraction of what's out there. The book of life is vast, and maybe its most exciting pages are the ones we haven't even found yet. The only real question is, what will we find on them?